Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the AbadAssLife channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Andrew Abad, and in today's poker segment, we are going to review a 5-5-10 no limit hold'em live stream that we played in Georgetown, Texas during our Poker Face Ash meetup week. There was a lot of action. It was a lot of fun. Everybody had a good time. That's what matters. But without further ado, let's get into it. Hey, what's up, guys? We're here at Georgetown Poker Club, day 2 of the meetup games with Poker Face Ash. We did 1-2-5 round by round game yesterday, and it was really good. There was a lot of action. Today we have some meetup games as well. It's gonna be a 1-3 hold'em as well as a 5-5-10 no limit stream later today. One game's on the way. Come check it out. Alright guys, this hand is about an hour into the session. I've been splashing around, just having a lot of fun. So naturally I'm stuck about $1,100 at this point. I have the $20 straddle on, and Ash looks down at pocket 3s and decides to limp. Dirty looks down at pocket 10s and opens it up for $65. Jarrett wakes up with ace jack and makes the call. We look down at 6-3 offsuit, which is not a very good hand, but we're getting a decent price since we already have the $20 in. So we decide to make the call, and Ashley comes along. We take a flop 4 ways, and it's queen 7 4 2 diamonds. Now Ash checks it over to Dirt, and Dirty decides to put in the c-bet for $100. Jared gets out of the way, and we decide to go with the probably worst option of them all. Instead of check raise, or instead of folding, we decide to go to the flat and get involved, try to spike our gutter and crush Dirty's soul, and we make the call. Ashley gets out of the way, and we take a turn heads up, which is the amazing 5-ball. So we spike our gutter, and we realize that Dirty has about $370 left in his stack. So we don't want to fold out all like the single pair of hands he can have. Maybe he can have ace queen with the ace of diamonds, or an overpair with a diamond, all those type of hands. If he does have a flush, then we're just gonna double him up. There's not much we can do here. So we go ahead and decide to bet $160, but unfortunately he didn't have none of these hands. He had pocket 10s and decided to fold. So we get lucky on this one and get a little bit of chips back, but we have a lot of work in order to get unstuck. So let's try to get to the next hand and see what happens. This hand is about 30 minutes after the previous hand, and Dirty opens it up for $50 with 5-6 of clubs. There's a bunch of calls in the middle, and we look down at queen 8 offsuit in the big blind. So for an extra $40, we are gonna take a flop. It's probably not ideal, but we did not come to Texas to not get in trouble and not get in the mix as much as we possibly can. So we take a flop 5 ways, and it's king 8-7 rainbow. We check it over to them, and Dirty decides to c-bet for $70 into $265. It folds out to me, and I make the call with middle pair. Jen also makes the call with her gutter. She has jack 9, and we take a turn 3 ways. The turn, it's a good one for us. It's another 8, so we have trips. We check it over to them again to set the trap. Jen checks, and Dirty let us down and decides to check back. The river is an even better one for us because it's a queen, so we river the boat. We're trying to think what hands are we going to target here. Probably all of the kings, all of the top pairs. Maybe even we get really lucky and we can cool our pocket 7s, or king queen is definitely paying us. So we go ahead and bet a little bit more than half pot. I think there was about 500-ish in the middle. So we bet $290, but unfortunately nobody had anything, and we didn't get max value for this, but we dragged another pot, and that's always good. Alright guys, this is a pretty interesting hand to me, so I'd love to hear your feedback on it and hear if you were in my shoes, if you would have went for the 3-barrel bluff and just empty the clip, or if you think it was a good idea to just check and give up on the river. But let's get into the hand. The hand starts with Alex and Jen both limping in an early position. Then it folds down to Jared on the cutoff, and he opens it up for $35. Corey folds on the button, and I look down at 8-7 offsuit in the small blind. Now, I know this is not a great hand, but as I mentioned before, I came in here to mix it up, splash around, and try to play some big pots. So I decided to go ahead and put in the 3-bet to $115 because I thought that we'll go heads up to a flop. But to my surprise, both of the limpers decided to call. Alex and Jen put in the $115 in the middle. And at this point, Jared has all of the options, really. I mean, folding is definitely out of the question, but he can flat or he can potentially 4-bet as a bluff, knowing that I'm going to be 3-betting light a lot of the times. Not just him, but in general, because I'm just having fun. I'm splashing around, and I don't necessarily need to have a premium to 3-bet in this spot. So Jared decides on a call, and we take a flop 4 ways, which is Queen 9-5 rainbow. Now, I think versus 3 opponents, I don't think it's going to be too effective to just go ahead and lead ourselves, because a lot of the times I don't think we're going to get through all of them. So I decide to check, and Alex checks. Jen bets $100. So this about 20% pot, and Jared calls. So now I think the best play is to go in with a check raise, because there's so much dead money in the middle. If we get through Jen, there's a good chance that Jared's gonna fold as well, and we have a gutter. So worst comes to worst, we have a little tiny equity, and if we tell the story correctly, we could scoop all the money in the middle with a high. So we go for the check raise and make it $400. Alex gets out of the way, and Jen thinks for a few seconds and makes the call. Jared gets out of the way as well, so we're going to take a turn. Heads up, which is the Jack of Spades. Now, this card, it's good for me because it gives me a little bit more outs. Now I have a double gutter, and I think I can barrel in a lot of rivers, but then again, I don't know what Jen might have. She could have had Queen Jack and turn 2 pair and just never fold in against me. We have this dynamic where we play at each other pretty hard. So she never gives me credit for many hands. Thank you, honey. So anyway, I bet again, and I think my mistake was, if I was going to try to bluff here, I probably should have just went ahead and put it all in. But like I said, I can run into a lot of hands and then get stacked. So I went with the small sizing of $440, and I say it's small relatively to the size of the pot. There is a little bit over $1,300 in the middle, I believe. So she makes the call again. River, it's a complete brick. It doesn't really change anything. I have about $1,400 behind, I would say, maybe a little bit less. And the pot's over $2,000. So we have less than a pot size bet, and we did not think we were going to get it through. So unfortunately, we just decided to give up, check, and go move on to the next hand. Jen checks back, and she shows Queen 10 for a flop top pair and turned open-ended. So yeah, I don't think she would have folded on the turn, even when we piled it in, because she had the extra outs for her open-ended. But we tried our best, and hopefully we can bluff her at some point in our lives. Let's move to the next hand. Alright guys, this is the very next hand after we unsuccessfully attempted to bluff Jen. As you can see, she's still raking in some of the chips that were previously in my stack, but we're gonna go ahead and try to get some of them back in this one. The hand starts with the $20 straddle, and it folds to Corey on the cutoff, who opens it up for $75. I'm in the button, and I'm tilted out of my mind. Not really, but we're gonna use the excuse to somewhat justify my maniac 3-bet to $200 with 5-3 offsuit. Alex wakes up in the big blind with pocket kings, and somehow decides to just flat. It gets back to Corey with 5-4 suited, and he makes the call. So we take a flop 3 ways, and it is ace 6-3, 2 diamonds. Alex checks it over to us, Corey checks, and we c-bet for about half the pot. We make it $325 to go, and Alex, you can just see the pain in his eyes. He cannot believe that it was an ace high flop, and he mucks his pocket kings. Corey has open-ended, and he makes the call. The turn is an offsuit 10, and he checks it over to me, and at this point, I know Corey and I also have weird dynamic. We level each other a lot, and I didn't want to make it seem like I was just 3-barreling anything, because he probably would have thought that I was tilted. So I went ahead and checked back to give him the impression that I have some type of value hand and some showdown. The river is the 4 of diamonds, so the front of flush draw gets there, and he makes a pair. Now has us beat. Obviously at this point I don't know that. He checks it over to us pretty quick, and I decide to go on a snap shove. I probably would have played flush draw the same way. So I think my approach to this hand was semi-balanced, and given the fact that he didn't have much, he just went ahead and folded. So we got away with murder in this one. We made pocket kings fold, and we also made Corey fold a better hand, well, at least on the river. So we got some of our chips back, but we still need to put in more work to go ahead and get even. So we're gonna go to the next hand. Alright guys, this next hand starts with poker face Ash opening to $30 with pocket tens under the gun. It folds back around to me on the big blind, and I look down at king queen offsuit. I decide to go ahead and put in the 3-bet to $125, and she makes the call pretty quickly. The flop comes queen queen 4, 2 diamonds. This is a really good flop for us with flop trips, and we are really only losing to 2 hands potentially. We're losing to ace queen or pocket fours. So we're gonna go ahead and put in the bet to $100, and she races to $305. I don't see much point in racing here. I think if she does have some sort of flush draw, she might be able to get away with it on a pair board if I put too much pressure. If she does have ace queen, we're gonna lose the max or pocket fours. So we're gonna go ahead and just put in the call and see what develops, and that's what we did. The turn comes on 3 of spades, so puts another backdoor flush draw in the mix, and we check it over to Ash and want to see what she's going to do. She decides to check back for pot control, and the river is another 4. So queen queen 4, 3, 4. Now I think with our image being that we're the most active player in the table, we're perceived as the maniac of the table, we're gonna get paid a lot in spots like this where we make good hands. So we decided to go with a very polarizing sizing of $900. It's a little bit over a pot size bet. There was $870 in the middle, somewhere around there. And she thinks for a few seconds and eventually makes the call. So we shared the bad news, and there was not much she could have done. I think nobody can blame her for calling this spot. There's a good chunk of the times I'm going to show up here with busted flush draws or any other type of air, and she's going to be good. So it was very lucky for us that we had it this time, and we'll scoop a pretty good size spot. Alright guys, in this next hand, a few people are off the table, so we are playing kind of short-handed, and I believe this influenced Jared's decision to open it up for $20 with 10-5 of clubs. I looked down at Jack 10 of diamonds in the cutoff and decide to bump it up to $80. It folds back around to him, and he makes the call. The flop comes 10-4-3 with 2 spades, so we both flop top pair, and he checks it over to me. I put out a bet of $100, and he makes the call pretty quickly. The turn is the 7 of clubs. So one draw gets there, 5-6 makes a straight. He actually picks up a gutter, so his hand improves a little bit, and he checks it over to me again, and I size up to $270 into 370, I believe. So it's around like 2/3 pot. He puts in the call once again, and we see a river of the 9 of hearts. Now he checks it over to me again, and honestly at this point I think I'm not really going to get 3 streets of value from a worse 10. If he had a flush draw, I'm not gonna get paid unless he had 8-6 of spades or Jack-8 of spades, and I'll lose the max. So I really didn't see a lot of benefits in betting this river. Even if we want to target 10, we pretty much lose to every 10 other than 10-8. So we decide on checking back, and we see that he had 10-5. So hindsight, we probably could have gotten a little bit more value out of this hand, but I think overall the best play with this run out is to just go ahead and check back, because the value bet might seem a little too thin, but we win another pot, and that's what matters. So we're gonna go to the next hand. Alright guys, in this very next hand, the $20 straddles on, and Corey looks down at Queen 8 of diamonds and opens it up to $80. I looked down at 10-7 offsuit, but I want to get in the mix, I want to get involved. This is definitely not a winning play. Don't try this at home. 10-7 offsuit should most likely be a fold here, and once in a great while I think you can mix in the 3-bet with it, but flatting it's by far the worst option. So there's a method to my madness for whatever reason, and I did want to play a lot of hands. So playing these meetup games, I like to give people action. I like to have the maniac's image, because when I do pick up a good hand, a lot of times you do get paid. But this is a little over the top, I would say. But anyway, I put in the call to $80, and it folds around. So we're taking a flop heads up, which is 10 deuce deuce. Now he c-bets for $100, which is 50% pot, and I flop top pair, so I'm not going anywhere just yet. I'm gonna put in the call and see what develops on the turn. The turn is the ace of spades. It puts a backdoor flush draw as well, and he c-bets one more time for 50% pot. He puts in $200 in the middle. Now, against an unknown, most likely I just go ahead and fold this, because that ace benefits the PFR range a lot better than mine, and a lot of people that are playing just ABC would go ahead and c-bet, and then once they catch their ace, they continue betting. The problem here is with Corey, being that we've played so much against each other, this becomes a leveling war, in which I'm thinking, okay, he knows that I know that ace benefits his range more than mine, so therefore he can continue repping it because of that reason. So he doesn't necessarily have to have an ace here, but he's more than capable to go ahead and rep it. So I just go ahead and put in the call for that reason, and we go to a river, which is the 10 of diamonds. Now we have a full house, and I'm really hoping that he goes ahead and continues repping that ace, although I don't know if he'll do it. I mean, what else am I calling here with? So I don't know. He slows down and he checks it over to us, and after thinking for a bit, I decide to go ahead and bet almost full pot. Make one of those polarizing bets, because a lot of the times I feel like he would probably just call me playing the board, 2 pairs with an ace. So I go ahead and put in $700 in the middle, and he tanks for a minute, and he looks like he wants to call, but eventually makes the fold. So we scoop another one, even though our call pre-flop is a bit of a mistake. We got lucky in a spike top pair and then stuck around and made a boat. So another one goes our way. Let's get to the next hand. Alright guys, in this very next hand, it folds to us on the hijack and we look down at ace 10 offsuit. We decide to open it up to $50 and it folds to Hector on the big blind. He had just gotten here to play the stream. However, we've played with each other several times here. Every single time I come to Texas, I hit him up, he comes down and plays. Shout out to Hector if you're watching. He's a bit of a maniac himself, and he looks down at Jack 10 suited and decides that that's good enough to 3-bet me. So he goes ahead and puts the 3-bet to $225, and I quickly make the call. We take a flop heads up, which is 10, 5 deuce, 2 spades. Now, I am fairly positive that I have the best hand here, but even though Hector is a little bit crazy, sometimes he can show up with good hands also, and since he is very unpredictable and very aggressive, it's very hard to play against him. So he leads for $225, which is about half pot, and I decide on a call. The reason for this is, even though I think I have the best hand, I don't want to shut any of his bluffs down. I don't want to, blow the pot in case I'm wrong and he does have me beat. Also, I want to keep ranges wide and I want to give him some rope to continue betting. The downside to that is that there could be a lot of turns that can freeze up some of the action, such as spade or an overcard. Then I have to play the guessing game whether he has the overcard or not. However, I decided on a call, so I put in the $225 and we take a turn. The turn is the queen of spades, so just what I was talking about. The front door flush draw gets there and an overcard gets there, but he now slows down and checks it over to us, so it leads me to believe that he doesn't have any of it. I don't think he has a flush, and I don't think he has a queen or an overpair for that matter. He could still have some overpairs, but I think we have the best hand, so I'm just gonna go for some value here, and I go ahead and put in a bet of $340. He thinks for a few seconds and makes the call. The river comes an offsuit king, so this run out was not the greatest. If it would have been a clean run out, I'm pretty positive the pot would have been a lot bigger, but it's still decent sized pot. He checks it over to me one more time, and I think it would be too thin to try to bet here. I really don't think we'll get called by worse, so I just decide to check it back, and ace 10 is good. He flips over the jack 10 of diamonds, and we have him out kicked. So another one's gonna go for the Drewster. Let's go to the next hand. Alright, if you guys made it up to this point, you're about to see the biggest hand of the night. It's a pretty interesting one too, so let's get into it. Their $10 straddle is on this hand, and it folds to me on the cutoff, and we look down at pocket aces, the best hand ever created. We open it up for $30, and Pokerface Ash decides to get out of the way on the button. Big Dog makes the call on the small blind with King 7 off. Jen makes the call on the big blind with King 10 of spades, and Hector decides to make the call out of the straddle with 10-3 suited. So we take a flop 4 ways, and the flop is 7-5 deuce with 2 spades. Almost everybody got a little piece of it. Big Dog flopped himself top pair, and he decides to go ahead and lead for $80. Jen has 2 overs and a flush draw, so she's not going anywhere. She puts in the call, and Hector makes the fold. Now, the question to me is, this flop is way better for the small blind and big blind ranges than it is for mine. But at the same time, they could have flopped straight draws. They could have flopped flush draws. They can have per plus draws type hands, where we want to charge them the max for all these hands. Now, if they have hands that already have us beat, like 2 pairs and sets, then I'm pretty sure we're gonna hear from them pretty quickly, because I don't think they're gonna slow play them with a flush draw on board. And both of these players are people that I think are not necessarily gonna slow play a lot of their hands. So I decide to go ahead and put in the raise to $350, and to my surprise, both of them call. The turn is the 10 of hearts, and there's 1200 in the middle. Big Dog checks it over to us, and Jen starts grabbing some chips. Now, there's 1200 in the middle, and she leads out for $400. To me, this bet feels like she has some sort of a flush draw and she wants to set her own price. It kind of feels like a blocker bet. So I didn't want that to happen. I didn't want to just flat and let Big Dog in the pot for cheap, because this bet is a third of the size of the pot. So all things considered, if I just flat it here, Big Dog would be getting like 5-1. And I didn't want to do that. At the end of the day, we have aces. It's a single pair hand. It's very vulnerable to a lot of the hands that they can potentially have. So I go ahead and put in the raise once again to $2,000, and Big Dog decides to get out of the way. Jen thinks for a few seconds and gets it all in. Now I have probably another 1,500 behind, and it's kind of, I mean, I'm never folding just because I'm getting a gazillion to 1 and it feels like I'm way committed. But at the same time, I don't want to get it in basically drawing dead, and for a second it felt that way. Once she paused it in, she knows that I'm not folding after I make it 2,000. So I don't know exactly what she was thinking by making this play, but it made it look very, very strong. If I had another 5,000 behind and she had me covered, it might have worked and I might have folded. But however, with these stack sizes, I just cannot fold. I toss in the call, and she tells me that she has one pair. So it's such a relief. We know that we're ahead, but then she says I have a flush draw as well. So I know that she has a lot of equity, a lot of outs. And we decide to run it twice. You know, happy wife, happy life. So the first river comes out, and it's the Queen of Spades. She gets there on the first run out. The second run out is the Jack of Clubs. So I ended up holding on the second run out. We basically chopped the pot. Alright guys, that was it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate you guys watching. If you enjoyed it, hit the like and subscribe button below. If you have any comments or suggestions or anything that you want me to add to these vlogs, you're more than welcome to reach out to me or just put a comment in the comment section below. Thank you so much once again, and hope I'll see you guys in the next one.